Stocks on Wall Street closed at sessions lows, falling for the second straight day. The Dow falls more than 300 points as the rally pauses. Asian markets decline as rising COVID cases weigh on global equities. Global COVID cases continue to rise, the total now above 5.65 crore mark. This raises worries of fresh lockdowns as countries grapple with the second wave. The United States remains the worst affected as the death toll tops 2.5 lakh. American pharma giant Pfizer says the final data analysis shows that its COVID-19 vaccine is 95% effective, reports consistent outcomes across all ages, races, and ethnicities. Says it will apply to the US FDA for emergency use authorization in the next few days. And Hero MotoCorp reports strong retail sales of 14 lakh units in 32 days festive season. Inventory at all-time lows and sales volume in festive season is 103% of 2018 sales. A very good morning. Welcome to Power Breakfast. We are in the Mumbai News Center and I'm Nigel D'Souza. Well, first up, let's take a quick check on the Asian markets. Well, those indices are lower as traders grapple with the optimism around a potential coronavirus vaccine and also economic worries. Now, the session in Asia follows the US stocks that ended lower for the second straight session. So keeping that in mind and keeping what's going on in the Asian markets, the SGX Nifty is indicating a 100-point downtick just to kickstart trade. So keep an eye out on that mark. But let's tell you about the US markets. Wall Street ended in the red as stocks posted a second straight day of losses. All the frontline indices ended virtually at the low point of the day. The Dow was down nearly around 350 points. The Nasdaq was down nearly around 100 points. Stocks fell sharply after the New York City announced the shutdown of schools as the city grapples with a growing number of coronavirus cases. CNBC's Aditi Roy gets us a wrap of what transpired on Wall Street.
U.S. markets posting a second straight day of losses as the worsening pandemic overshadowed positive vaccine developments. The Dow losing 344 points, the S&P down 41, and the Nasdaq off 97. Homebuyer demand making a resurgence after taking a brief pause around the election. Mortgage applications to purchase a home jumping 4% last week and rose 26% annually. Despite refinance applications being down slightly for the week, they remained nearly 100% higher annually. The Federal Aviation Administration has cleared Boeing's 737 MAX for takeoff. The jets have been grounded for nearly 2 years after 2 fatal crashes killed 346 people. Pilots will need to undergo new flight training before the MAX can return to commercial service. Target shares moving higher after crushing third quarter estimates. The retailer benefiting from consumers changing shopping habits during the pandemic. The results got a major boost from digital and same-day service sales, curbside pickup growing more than 500% in the quarter alone.
Well, let's also get in some opinion coming in from Mohammad El Arian on the outlook for the U.S. markets going ahead.
Markets are taking a breather. The latest vaccine news was pretty well priced in. We continue to get indications that the economy is slowing, not just because of normal consumer behavior, but we are getting more and more news of COVID restrictions in New York today. And also there's been a subtle change, very subtle. I don't want to read too much into it, but it's there in the language that the Federal Reserve officials are using about more stimulus. So for me, it's not a great surprise that we're getting this breather. The biggest surprise, honestly, is that the rotation trade ran out of steam so early. I would have thought that it would go further in terms of relative valuations. Look at what Vice Chair Clarida said. There was a very subtle change from the economy will need more fiscal to monetary stimulus to it may need more. It's a huge deal to have vaccines that are over 90% effective. However, the big question is how long is that trip and how painful is that trip? And as the light shines brighter, the temptation is to say, you know what, I'm not going to press on the accelerator quite as hard as I was intending to beforehand. And that's it. So just keep an eye on the Fed. It doesn't mean they're going to do anything radical, but the market has priced in additional support.
Well, that's the global market action, but how will the overnight cues impact our markets? Well, let's get in our research team who's joining in now to tell you how trade setup is looking like. Let's go across to Sonia first. She's here to tell us about trade setup itself. Morning, Sonia.
Hi, Nigel. Good morning. So after a heady run that the market has had, seems like today could be a bit of a pause. At least that's what the SGX Nifty is suggesting. Now, the Dow was down in excess of 1% on the back of rising coronavirus cases. In fact, the US COVID deaths have now crossed 250,000 and the cases have risen over 80% in just the last 2 weeks. So that continues to remain a headwind for the market. The Sensex and the Nifty, though, ended at record highs for the third straight day yesterday. The mid-cap index ended at a 26-month high and the Nifty Bank ended at a 9-month high. There was big buying that continued from FII. So FIIs bought about 3,072 crores in the cash markets yesterday. And I was going through the delivery statistics. PSU banks have now started seeing an up move in terms of delivery buying. So there was a 700 crore delivery volumes in SBI yesterday. Autos have come back into fashion. We saw M&M up 10% yesterday. There was delivery buying of 400 crores in Maruti. And today, the strong retail sales from Hero MotoCorp will definitely be a sentiment boost. But don't forget, domestic institutions continue to sell. So DIIs have sold about 2,790 crores. Also, the rising COVID cases in Delhi is a bit of a bother for the economy on the whole. So Delhi recorded almost 7,500 new COVID cases yesterday, taking the total tally to over 5 lakhs and saw 133 new fatalities. So rising COVID cases is something that could dampen the spirit across the board. The SGX Nifty indicating that after a very heady run, the market could be in for some profit taking today.
Okay, all right. So the rising number of cases globally continues to be a bit of a worry. But let's get a little bit micro then. Nupur, tell us all the stocks that you're tracking today.
Well, good morning, Nigel. Big positive news coming in from the two-wheeler space. Hero MotoCorp sold more than 14 lakh units of motorcycles and scooters in retail sales during 32 days of the festive season. And these numbers are calculated from the first day of Navratri till Bhai Dooj. Also, sales during this period resulted in reduction of inventory levels at the dealership to less than 4 weeks. Also, if you look at their performance, sales volume was at 98% of 2019 and 103% of 2018. Company also gained market share by more than 500 basis points in the month of October. So positive news there. Apart from that, passenger air traffic details also poured in for the month of October. It's down 57% on YOY basis but up 34% month on month. During October, India's largest airline Indigo recorded a 55.5% market share, although slipped from last month, and a 68% load factor, while SpiceJet with a market share of 13.4% registered a 74% load factor. TCS and Wipro came out with their record date for buyback, and lastly, Siemens board meets on 25th of November to consider dividend along with their Q4 earnings. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Nupur, thanks so much for that. Well, let's hop across to Mangalam. Mangalam, how's the FNO action shaping up? I think it was looking quite good. The only problem is after a while, we have more calls that are written than puts.
That's right, and more importantly, we're nearing a few speed bumps, yes. Nigel. 13,000 on the Nifty, sure. At the same time 30,000 on the Nifty Bank. But no real worries as far as the queues are concerned. It is weekly options expiry, so maybe those speed bumps are par for the course. The FIIs are pumping in money by the truckloads in the cash market, close to around 3,000 crores in the cash market yesterday as well. After being extremely long on the index futures, nibbling away further, yesterday there was a purchase of close to 450 crores where they unwound some short positions, added close to around 3,300 long positions as well. With this, the FII long position now stands at 71%. Remember, at the peak of the series, it was 75%, dropped to 67%, and is back now up to 71%. Important as far as the options are concerned, they bought more calls than puts. 29,000 call contracts were bought, 27,000 put contracts were bought. And like you said, they wrote more calls than puts as well, close to 23,000 calls that were written. But the put writing over the last few trading sessions suggests that, there is a firm amount of support. On the Nifty, because it's weekly options expiry, we'll keep an eye out on the range. 12,800 put and 13,000 calls both have the maximum open interest. So that's the range that is likely to play out. And on, ahead of the weekly options expiry, we saw close to 21 1 lakh shares written on the 12,900 put. Importantly, on the Nifty Bank, which has been on a runaway rally out there, maximum open interest is on both the 30,000 call as well as the 29,000 put. We're just around 300 points away from the 30,000 mark as of yesterday's close. So let's see where that goes as well. In terms of stocks, just keep an eye out on a handful of them. Max Financial, a near 61% jump in the open interest. A lot of long positions added out there. A lot of long positions added on Bata as well as Ashok Leyland. So these are the stocks I'll be watching out for.
Okay, all right, Mangalam, thanks so much for that. So we're bracing for a bit of a downtick to kickstart trade. Let's see whether or not that dip gets bought into at some point of time. But we'll slip into a short break on that note. Up next, though, Pfizer's final data analysis shows that its